What if the most dangerous weapon in history wasn't a gun, a bomb, or even a machine, but a knife? And not just any knife, but one so resilient that it survived 5 different wars, saving countless lives, yet remains almost unknown outside military history. It challenges what we think we know about modern warfare. How could something so simple outlast weapons built with far more technology? People assume that old tools become useless, but this M3 trench knife flips that belief upside down. It's not flashy, it's not high-tech, and still, it earned a place in the hands of soldiers from Normandy to the jungles of Vietnam. The paradox is striking. In a world obsessed with progress, a piece of steel from the 1940s might be the most trusted combat knife ever made. If that sounds hard to believe, wait until you hear the real story's moments when this so-called relic was the only thing standing between a soldier and his death. Once you understand what made the M3 trench knife so different, you might never look at modern weapons the same way again. The story behind the M3 trench knife begins in 1943, a critical moment during World War II, when the U.S. Army realized the urgent need for an effective close-quarters weapon. This knife was specifically designed for paratroopers and elite troops who faced intense battles in tight spaces where shooting wasn't always an option. This combat knife was born out of the need for a simple, durable, and deadly tool, something reliable even in the harshest conditions. Although the M3 trench knife is often recognized as a singular legendary weapon, it was actually produced by several manufacturers during World War II to meet the high demand from the U.S. Army. Among the most notable companies were Utica Cutlery Company, Ontario Knife Company, Camillus Cutlery Company, Imperial Knife Company, and W.R. Case and Sons Cutlery Co. Each manufacturer followed the military's strict specifications, but introduced subtle variations in blade finish, handle materials, and markings. These differences make some original M3 knives highly sought-after collectibles today. Utica Cutlery, for example, was known for producing large quantities of M3 South with a distinctive rough blade finish, while Camillus knives often featured smoother blades and different handle materials, like bakelite or wood. Ontario Knife Company's versions were prized for their sturdy build and reliable balance. Despite these small differences, all manufacturers produced knives that met the rigorous standards of durability, sharpness, and simplicity that defined the M3 dot in modern times. Some of these original manufacturers, like Ontario Knife Company, have revived the M3 design in replica or inspired models. Other contemporary knife makers, including Cold Steel and Ka-Bar, have also released versions or knives influenced by the M3's design philosophy, blending classic ruggedness with modern materials and craftsmanship. What truly sets it apart is its simplicity. Crafted with a strong blade and a sturdy handle, the M3 trench knife had no frills, but possessed everything a soldier needed to survive in moments when every second mattered. The U.S. Army wasn't looking for a fancy gadget. They wanted something that worked without fail. This less is more philosophy ensured the knife not only endured the battles of World War II, but remained relevant for decades, becoming a true legend among military knives. Beyond the technical aspect, the knife's creation was also strategic. At a time when urban combat and ambushes were increasingly common, having an effective trench knife for close combat was essential. The M3 trench knife established itself as a vital tool, not just to kill, but to save lives in a battlefield, where the line between the two was thin and constantly shifting. The first real test for the M3 trench knife came during the brutal battles of Normandy in World War II. Paratroopers landing behind enemy lines often found themselves in chaotic, close-quarters fights where firearms were not always practical. In those intense moments, the fighting knife wasn't just a weapon. It became a lifeline. Soldiers learned quickly that the knife's durability and sharpness could mean The difference between life and death, when every split second mattered. Imagine the foggy mornings, the chaos of gunfire mixed with shouted orders, and the desperate scramble through hedgerows and trenches. It was in this unforgiving environment that the combat knife proved its worth, slicing through enemy defenses and fears alike. Those who carried the M3 trench knife often spoke of the blade as an extension of their own will to survive, embodying the grit and determination that defined that pivotal moment in history. This baptism of fire was not just a trial by combat, but a testament to the design and purpose of the knife. Its use in Normandy set the tone for its future deployments, marking the beginning of a legacy that would span multiple wars. The blade's reputation grew, but so did the silent stories of courage behind each scar and nick on its edge. Stories few would ever hear, but many would remember. After Normandy, the M3 trench knife didn't retire. It moved from battlefield to battlefield, enduring the harsh landscapes and brutal combat of Korea's frozen hills. Here, the cold was just as much an enemy as the opposing forces, and the combat knife had to perform flawlessly under extreme conditions. Soldiers had to rely on their gear, and the military knife often became a trusted companion for survival, whether cutting through frozen ropes or defending against sudden close attacks. The Vietnam War brought a new challenge: dense jungles where visibility was low and ambushes frequent. The trench knife had to be versatile, able to handle everything from clearing brush to deadly encounters in the shadows. The heat and humidity tested the blade's durability, but the M3 trench knife endured, earning respect for its simplicity and toughness in an environment that chewed up less hardy tools. This period cemented its reputation as a survival knife that could adapt to any fight. Even after Vietnam, the knife found its place in Middle Eastern conflicts, carried by soldiers who knew the legacy behind its steel. Though modern weaponry evolved, the tactical blade remained a symbol of reliability and resilience. In every war zone, from deserts to urban battlegrounds, the M3 trench knife was a quiet witness to history, connecting generations of fighters with one sharp, unwavering edge. What makes the M3 trench knife legendary isn't just its battlefield record, but the genius of its design. Its blade, forged from tough, durable steel, strikes the perfect balance between sharpness and resilience, allowing it to slice cleanly while resisting chipping. The simple yet effective handle ensures a firm grip even in wet or muddy conditions, crucial for a combat knife used in unpredictable fights. It's this no-nonsense design that turned the M3 trench knife into a tool soldiers could trust implicitly. Unlike many modern tactical blades, packed with gimmicks and unnecessary features, the M3 trench knife embodies the idea that less is more. Its efficiency lies in being straightforward, built for the brutal demands of close combat. This kind of durability makes it not only a fearsome weapon, but also an invaluable survival knife, able to withstand the wear and tear of war and come out ready for the next mission. Even now, collectors and veterans alike praise the blade's balance and reliability. Its design philosophy reminds us that in moments of crisis, what truly matters is not complexity, but trustworthiness. The M3 trench knife remains a shining example of form meeting function in the harshest conditions, proving that sometimes simplicity is the deadliest strategy. Behind every blade, there's a story, sometimes whispered, sometimes shouted across battlefields. Soldiers who wielded the M3 trench knife often shared tales of how it saved their lives when all else failed. One paratrooper recounted gripping the knife as chaos erupted around him, using it not only to defend, but to carve a path to safety. These personal experiences transformed the combat knife from a mere tool into a symbol of resilience and grit. Many veterans describe the military knife as an extension of their own willpower. When bullets ran low and hope dimmed, the blade stood firm. These stories, passed down quietly, reveal the emotional bond forged in the heat of combat. Imagine the psychological boost of holding a trusted trench knife during a tense moment, knowing that it had already survived battles you could only read about. This connection gave soldiers more than a weapon. It gave them confidence to face the unknown. These personal accounts elevate the M3 trench knife beyond steel and sharp edges. They remind us that behind every scar on its blade lies a human story of courage and survival. While history often forgets these intimate moments, the knife itself carries their legacy, silently telling tales of men who faced fear head-on and violence lived to tell the tale. Despite its legendary status, the M3 trench knife gradually faded from the spotlight as modern warfare evolved. Advances in firearms and tactical gear pushed close combat knives into the background, making many believe that such blades were relics of a bygone era. But this was far from the truth. The knife's disappearance from common use wasn't about obsolescence. It was about the changing face of battlefields and military tactics. Even as soldiers moved to high-tech weaponry, the combat knife quietly retained its place in specialized units and training. Veterans still cherished the military knife as a reliable fallback, and collectors treasured it as a symbol of gritty determination. Its simplicity and proven track record couldn't be matched by flashier, less tested tools. So while it may have slipped from everyday use, the M3 trench knife never lost its honor or its mystique among those who understood its value. This quiet retreat into history is what makes the M3 trench knife so fascinating. It's a story of endurance, not just in battle, but through time itself. The knife's legacy lives on not in headlines, but in the hands of those who appreciate its unique blend of toughness and tradition. And this leads us to the final, deeper understanding of what makes this blade unforgettable. The M3 trench knife is more than a piece of sharpened steel. It's a fragment of history that carries the weight of 5 wars. Each dent, each scratch tells a story of survival, of moments where fear and determination collided in the darkest corners of the battlefield. Holding this fighting knife isn't just gripping a weapon. It's touching the very essence of men who stood their ground when running wasn't an option. There's a certain gravity in knowing that a simple combat knife has been passed from one generation of soldiers to the next, bridging decades of conflict. Its presence speaks to something universal, the unchanging need for courage in a world that constantly invents new ways to test it. The military knife doesn't just symbolize violence. It embodies resilience, sacrifice, and the instinct to protect life even in the heart of war. And perhaps that's why collectors and historians still seek out the M3 trench knife today. Not merely to own a rare tactical blade, but to hold a relic that has quietly endured when so many others were forgotten. It makes one wonder, if a simple knife can survive 5 wars and remain relevant, what other hidden stories of strength might we be overlooking right now? Now that you've uncovered the story behind the M3 trench knife, ask yourself, how many tools in your life are truly built to last? How many things you own could survive, not just years, but decades of intense use, and still do their job flawlessly? If a simple combat knife could endure 5 wars and remain reliable, what excuses are we making for not demanding that same level of strength in ourselves? Think about it. What would change in your life if you approached challenges with the same resilience as this blade? Would you finally start that project you've been putting off? Would you push harder, even when things get uncomfortable? Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they stop sharpening themselves when life gets roughed out. So here's my challenge for you. Apply the same persistence this military knife represents. Build skills that won't break under pressure. Test yourself, improve yourself, and keep going when others quit. And if you want to keep learning lessons that sharpen your mind like a true tactical blade, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, And let's keep growing together.